So with the patella, all you need to know is that it is the patella, and it is one of the sesamoid bones. The base is a somewhat broader part, which is actually superior, closer to the body, and the apex is the slightly more pointed area of the patella, which is inferior, pointing towards your feet. And it's a sesamoid bone, and it helps form part of the knee joint, like so. Notice that the apex is a little pointier and it's inferior. The flatter, broader base is superior. And this picture is a nice little picture that shows you how the condyles of the femur meet and articulate the condyles of the tibia. And this is the right knee anterior, and I know that, and you should know that, or will hopefully learn that, because notice that the fibula is on this side, and the fibula is always the lateral bone. So that is on the outside of the lower leg, and this is on the inside of the lower leg. The tibia is always medial. The fibula is always lateral. The patella is always anterior, which means this has to be the anterior view of the right knee. Okay? Which means, since the fibula is lateral, this is the lateral condyle of the tibia, and that is the lateral condyle of the femur, which makes this the lateral epicondyle of the femur. Switching to the other side, that's the medial condyle of the tibia, and that's the medial condyle of the femur, and that is the medial epicondyle of the femur. Okay? Another structurally important part of the knee joint is, notice that the knee joint is formed by the articulation of the femur with the tibia and the patella, but not the fibula. The fibula ends here. That's the head of the fibula. It ends here. The fibula articulates with the tibia, but not with the femur. So the femur and the tibia are the weight-bearing bones of the leg, lower extremity. The fibula does not really support much weight, which is why it is thinner, a lot thinner, than the tibia. So the tibia is tough and thick. T for tough, T for thick, T for tibia. The fibula is a finer, more delicate bone. Finer, F for fibula, F for fine. And part of the function of the patella is it helps stabilize the knee joint. This is a lateral view of the knee joint moving. So that's extending the knee and that's flexing the knee. Notice on the superior, right, femur, the articulating surfaces, the condyles, notice how they do come up more posteriorly and not so much anteriorly. Because when you extend the knee, it basically straightens out. But when you flex the knee, it bends back, and that's because those condyles come up all the way to the back of the femur. And then this would be the condyles of the tibia, and you can get a little hint there is the head of the fibula, just there. Okay? So the patella helps stabilize the joint of the knee and helps give a stronger efficiency for pull of what we call our quadriceps muscles, and we'll talk about that more when we do joints and then also the musculature. Okay, let's move down to the lower extremity, technically the leg, the tibia, and the fibula. Remember, thick tibia, fine fibula. So the tibia, as I mentioned, has its lateral and medial condyles. Anterior view here. So notice that the fibula is lateral, so that would be the lateral condyle of the tibia, and that's the medial condyle of the tibia. It's hard to see in an anterior view, but there is a protuberance, a nice bump, that's pretty obvious when you look at this bone from the side, and that is the tibial tuberosity on the tibia. Let's see if we can see it over here. A little bit. See this little bump, this ridge? Yeah, it's decent here. that ridge, which is anterior. Notice on the back it's kind of nice and smooth and flat, but it protrudes anteriorly in the front of the tibia. That's the tibial tuberosity. And that's important because that attaches to the patella via the patellar ligament, which we don't see here. But there's a tibial tuberosity and there's a patella, and there's a nice strong ligament between the two, patellar ligament. And we'll see that when we do joints. Condyles. Tibial tuberosity I just mentioned. Medial malleolus. So that's the proximal end of the tibia. It's proximal epiphysis. Let's go down to the distal epiphysis. And notice there's this nice protuberance that comes out on the medial part, or medial aspect of the tibia. That's the medial malleolus. That forms part of this socket that forms the ankle joint. And then the fibula, the head of the fibula articulates there with the proximal epiphysis of the tibia, the head of the fibula. And then distally on the fibula, this bony protrusion that sticks out, or sticks out distally, that is the lateral malleolus. So it, along with the medial malleolus of the tibia, forms this nice socket for the articulation with the ankle bones, or with the ankle bone. Something called the talus. Let me see, what else? Just showing you again one reason why the fibula is so thin. It's not a weight-bearing bone the way the tibia is at the knee. All right? And then here is an x-ray showing the ankle joint, the first bone here, or the bone, the tarsal that forms the joint with the tibia and the fibula is called the talus. And relatively strong joint, formed in part by the lateral malleolus of the fibula. How do you know it's lateral? Because the fibula is always lateral. And the medial malleolus of the tibia. How do you know it's the medial malleolus? Because the tibia is always medial. This is an anterior view of the right leg. Okay? So you can feel those malleoli. That's the pinky here of the rear view of the right foot. So that's the lateral malleolus. That's the medial malleolus. Medial, so that's the medial malleolus of this individual's tibia. And since it's the posterior view, it's the left tibia. And then that would be the right fibula with its lateral malleolus. And that's your ankle bones that you can feel. Those are the malleoli. Okay, let's go to the tarsals. Analogous to the carpals, there's 7 tarsals. The first one is the talus. And the talus forms this joint with the tibia and the fibula. Technically, it's the trochlea on the talus, that part, that bone marking on the talus that formed that joint. See here. Oh, this is inferior view. See here. Superior view. Both of these are of the right foot. The calcaneus is probably the largest tarsal. And the inferior part of the calcaneus, that's your heel bone, which is what you step on when you're walking. The first part of your foot that hits the ground, the calcaneus. Oh, there's the trochlea of the talus there. You kind of see it here. So there's the talus, there's the larger calcaneus, your heel bone. Then the metatarsals. Oh, I forgot to mention the other tarsals, which you need to know. I'll show them to you here. So there's the trochlea of the talus, there's the calcaneus. So here's the big toe, so this is medial. There's the little pinky toe, so that's lateral, so it's medial. So there's the medial cuneiform. Then there's the intermediate cuneiform, lateral cuneiform, and then on the far lateral aspect of the foot there's the cuboid bone. Okay, so there are 7 tarsals you need to know. Talus, calcaneus, navicular. I don't know if I mentioned that yet. The navicular, and then the medial, intermediate, and lateral cuneiform, and then finally over there the cuboid. Okay. So if you look here, there's the talus, there's the calcaneus, there's the navicular, there's the medial, way over there, intermediate and lateral cuneiforms, 1, 2, 3, and then finally the cuboid. 7 bones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right? And tarsals, again, we have 8 of those. And then let's move here to the metatarsals. Here, metatarsals, numbered Roman numerals 1 through 5, just like with the metacarpals, Roman numerals 1 through 5, and 1 is heading towards the large toe. Metatarsal Roman numeral 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the pinky toe. And then finally the phalanges, just like with the hand, also numbered Roman numerals 1 through 5. The big toe is phalanx 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the pinky toe. Okay? And the big toe is also called the hallux or the great toe. And just like with the hand, phalanx 1, the hallux, has only 2 bones in it. Proximal and distal phalanx 1. And just like with the hand, phalanx 2, 3, 4, and 5 have 3 bones each. Proximal, intermediate, and distal phalanx 2, 3, 4, and then 5. So that numbering and terminology of the phalanges of the foot are the same as the phalanges of the hand. Oh, there you go. Okay. Proximal, distal, proximal, middle, could be called intermediate, and distal, proximal, middle, distal, etc. Okay. And there's the metatarsals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, and then here, in terms of the tarsals, you can barely see the calcaneus and then the talus. That's the navicular. And then 1, 2, 3, medial, intermediate, lateral cuneiforms. And then over here on the far right, the cuboid. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tarsals. And that's it for this chapter.